My heart starts just thumping. Some officers coming around, they just need to talk to you. And I said, can it just wait a little while? I'm just at work right now. I just remember thinking I'm not ready to do whatever you think you need to talk to me about yet. They said this morning his vehicle was involved in an accident, and then I click and I just said, has he died?
So hello, Amy, and welcome.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us on this episode. So I just want to give people a bit of how you and I actually know each other. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about this yesterday. We're briefly on the phone of, I think I was pregnant. Well, I was pregnant with Charlie when I first came to your salon.
Yeah, okay.
And you and your business partner were actually recommended to me when we first moved to the Gold Coast, and from my sister in the hairdressing world. So I came along and I was pregnant with Charlie. And I said to you yesterday, how crazy is life? Like, if I'd have walked into your salon, pregnant with Charlie, and Charlie's 13 now, if I'd have walked into your salon and said, hey, pleased to meet you. Do you know, in fast forward in 13 years' time, you and I are going to be sitting on my podcast talking about how your life was completely flipped on its backside. You would have just thought I needed to go and get help, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's just insane, and a bit of a, obviously, for us to recognise that life is so precious and anything can change at any given time, and to, you know, certainly embrace and make the most of life as much as you can. I know it's all relative, but, you know, really try and do that. So let's, all that being said, let's go back to Amy pre-kids, single life. Yeah. And so what did that look like for you? Let's go, well, how old were you when you had your first? When you had only
34.
34. Okay, so let's go sort of late 20s. Was kids, marriage, all that on your radar? Was that something you could see yourself definitely wanting to do?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think as a small child, all I wanted to do was be a mum. So
really,
it was definitely something I wanted to do. I was living with my business partner, as you know. At the time, we'd lived with each other since like we were 19. We were just did everything together.
Yeah.
And we had travelled, and some New York, some Fiji. And then, we sort of met our retrospective partners.
Yeah.
And that was, just the year I was turning 30. So I met Ben one night out, and we just had that connection, that straight up connection that you can't fight.
So was that just a regular night? Had you just gone out?
Yeah, we'd been out for a girlfriend's 21st, probably an apprentice of ours at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we were just out, and I met him in the Hell at the Moon. Yeah.
Really?
In Broadbeach. Yeah, I know. You never think you're going to meet someone out in a nightclub.
But you do, it happens.
Yeah. Yeah, so we were sort of inseparable since, he had not long left his marriage, and he had a little girl, and we were quite sensitive about that. I didn't meet his daughter for at least 6 months into our relationship. I loved how honourable he seemed about that part of his life, and how respectful that was to his ex-wife and his little girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then, within a year we were living together, and he had his ups and downs with some mental health issues, but it was great. He was a life force. He would speak to anyone, anytime, anywhere. He was interested in everybody's story.
Yeah.
He was, just a great energy.
Yeah. A good listener.
Yeah, really good listener.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you just hit then just, obviously we'll dive into it perhaps a little bit more through this episode, but with Ben, was that fairly evident that he was struggling a little bit with his mental health?
Oh, yeah, he made it pretty clear that it was always something that he struggled with. Anxiety and depression mainly. But he hid it very well.
Yeah.
You know, at the time I met him, they had a family business, a building business, and they'd just gone through the floods, 2011
Oh,
floods.
wow.
So they
And
were
that's
really, really
stressful
busy. It
enough
was
as it
really
is.
stressful. So, you know, he always had this big energy, and then he would just collapse.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I watched him do that a fair few times.
And I guess like you hear it, don't you, time and time again, but the almost when if he was good at masking that, it's so exhausting to put that facade on and be everything to everyone and kind of put yourself on the back burner.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
So for him as well, already having his beautiful daughter, but he was on board and wanted children moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, it was a conversation because he knew that I was 30 and wanted to have kids.
Yeah.
And I know he had probably said to himself he doesn't want to have any more kids, but he knew that moving in a relationship with me would mean he needed to think about that or not move forward in a relationship
Of
together.
course.
So he was quite thoughtful about that.
Yeah.
And Ben was thoughtful about a lot of things he did.
Yeah.
More thoughtful than I probably would be at times. So I'm
Yeah,
just
sure.
a go for it
Yeah.
sort of a person.
We'll worry about
He
it
was,
after.
yeah, worry about it later. And he was very thoughtful about things. So he came to me and he said, look, I've really been thinking about this. And
He was on board. That was what he wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And then so from you meeting each other, because were you engaged? You didn't get engaged, do you?
no.
Was
we
marriage
weren't.
on the cards for you?
I
Not
mean,
really.
look, I think we always talked about, look, he'd been married. He didn't put a huge amount of value in it.
Yeah.
I wasn't someone who ever thought marriage was like
The
what
be
you
all
had
and
to
end all.
do. You know, I thought children at home and a life together is just the same amount of commitment, really.
100%.
You just don't have the same last
Well,
name.
that's the biggest commitment you could ever do,
It's having
right? If you're going to
children,
have
right?
children,
Yeah.
like, you know, in this
Yeah.
sense, marriage is a piece of paper.
Yeah.
I know people see that differently and I totally respect that.
Yeah.
But I think exactly the same way as you.
Yeah.
So you were 30 when you met him,
Mm-hmm.
and then you'd moved in together. And then how old were you when you had Ollie?
So I conceived Oliver when I was 33.
Yeah.
Ben was just spending a bit of time with his friend down in Melbourne. He was a bit of a wash and had come up for Easter, and we'd spent some time together, and Oliver came about.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, hello.
Hello.
And
yeah.
obviously a very welcomed.
Well, yes. I mean, surprising, but for me, definitely welcomed. Shocked for him, but again, also very welcomed.
Yeah.
Just wasn't probably quite at the time we thought it was going to happen.
Yeah.
But it happened.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Amazing. And so what did that start? Did you kind of get into your groove then as the three of you? Was Ben on the Gold Coast then?
Yeah, we'd then moved into one of those, like a Soho apartment in Varsity that had the business down the bottom because we always worked from home for me and my business partner.
Yeah.
And then 2 stories of living above. So for me, Ben and Oliver. And yeah, we moved into there I think I was about 6 months pregnant when we moved into there. And so, yeah, that's where he came into the world, and we were there until he was nearly 2.
I remember that.
Which place we had bought our own place where
That's
we are
right.
now.
Yeah. That's
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
And then having Oliver, were you like, how was things had the dynamic changed a little bit? Were you in a good place? You were just on a bit of a roll? Like you said, you then, when Oliver was 2, you bought your own place.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then you had the business from there as well. So that worked
Yeah, beautifully.
really well.
Yeah. Yeah. It was really good. Before Oliver's birth, Ben struggled, but probably thought he was going to. He told me he really struggled before the birth of his first child as well. So,
What was that, do you think? Was that an expectation?
Stress of impending fatherhood and pressure on, financial support and emotional support and, just an expectation, that he didn't want to let anyone down because he puts, high expectations on himself. So, so that saw us through some trying times before he was born.
And that's hard for you as well because you kind of, I think there's so much, under a spotlight, a mom, especially a new mom with pregnancy and life is, I don't know, people seem to think it's all unicorns and rainbows. It doesn't necessarily, I mean, some pregnancies they're really poorly and, all different dynamics going on. It's not always like that, is it?
No.
So how with you and then you being you and me knowing you how I know you, I see you always try and make sure that everyone else is okay. And
Yeah.
so you,
Yeah.
you being pregnant, obviously, even your pregnancy was quite good though, wasn't it?
Beautiful pregnancies, yeah.
But you were still working
All
and
the way
then
up,
trying
yeah.
to be that
Yeah.
shoulder for Ben when it's almost like well, come on, I'm pregnant.
Like,
who's going to be
what
my
about
shoulder?
turn? Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So was there a little bit of resentment a little bit with that, or do you just got on with it?
I really just got on with it. I'm not a type of person who holds a lot of resentment.
No.
I knew it was him. It was just how he worked. I knew we'd get through it and it would be okay.
Yeah.
I mean, look, at the time I was probably like annoyed and probably thinking back, I think,
Yeah.
But in the moment, I just was like, we just got to do what we need to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also it was then obviously you had Oliver and then it was like looking for a house and finding a house. And so there's always something coming up.
Yeah,
So it's kind
and
of
a
a
young child
distraction from that.
Yes.
And then first birthday party and then everything else that goes on. So when you moved into the new home, which was super exciting, you obviously got the business set up there as well, and then you've got Oliver as too. So when did you get pregnant again?
So I was already pregnant when
you
we
were
moved.
already pregnant,
yeah,
were you?
I was already pregnant when we moved into that home. So it was funny because the day Ben was actually, again, when I fell pregnant, working away in Melbourne.
Yeah.
So it's just always bizarre how it happens. Twice I told him over the phone that I was pregnant. But it was very exciting for Caleb because we were more expecting of it. The day that I took the pregnancy test was the same day that the real estate had called me to say that our offer had been accepted on the house. So it was very exciting. Ben wasn't there, but it was very exciting for me. Yeah. And then when he had moved back, we got the salon set up and yes, I was heading into like mid to end of the pregnancy. He was born in the July, so we moved in the December. So yeah, still early pregnancy when we moved. Yeah,
but exciting.
Very exciting. Yeah, that was a really exciting time for all of us. Yeah,
including Oliver because he was getting his little brother.
Yes.
Did you know what you were having?
Never.
No. You didn't. Right. Okay. So that's exciting. Then he was born, and so was Ben home then?
Yep. So Ben was home then. He only worked in Melbourne until the December, I think.
Yep.
He was back before Christmas, definitely. Back for the settlement of when we moved in. We had a great, settling into the new home, setting up the salon and the kid, Oliver and the pending new one.
Yeah.
And it was a good time. It was a really good time.
Yeah, it was exciting. And obviously having the business there as well, just being able to, although still very stressful times juggling everything, but
it sort of was nice just to know I've got my work here. I can, I worked and breastfed at the same time. I didn't feel like I ever had to put the kids into care until they were, nearly 2 because I could work around them, and then I used to just have mum take them for a day or so where I could do a full day. But it was a really well-matched situation for me to have kids and work from home the way that I did. Yeah, it was great.
And then, so having 2 children, young children, and then was a third discussion or was...
Yeah, I think by the time we had Caleb, it was like one more, hey? And I was like, okay, one more for sure. But we never stopped anything happening in between. We were just let it happen. It happened. Yeah. So we didn't obviously try, but we didn't try to stop it either. So, so then when Caleb he was only 18 months old, we found out we were pregnant with Aria. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And then Aria was So Caleb was what, 2.5 when Aria was
Not
born?
yeah, actually,
Not quite.
he's 2 in the July and she was born in the August.
Right.
So,
Okay. Yeah. Handful,
2 and then a baby.
but a
And
welcome girl.
yes, but
which
the
is
girl
beautiful.
came. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, how did life look like that then, having 3 very small children, obviously the baby, and then running your business? And Ben, where was Ben at then, like in his headspace? And
Yeah, he was good actually. You know, his work was really good. They loved him at work. He just got rave reviews all the time.
What was he doing?
So he was a windows and door technician.
That's right.
For a company.
Yeah.
And they just loved him. They just always want him to do more management roles and, you know, more responsibility roles because they could see he had the skills to do it, but he just never wanted to. He just knew, I think deep down he knew that the stress, he couldn't cope with the stress of the management roles.
Yeah.
But, you know, before we had Aria, the service tech role that he did, you know, it was a good 12-hour day. He wasn't home a lot, you know, in the time that kids were awake anyway. So I just said to him, you know, they were constantly offering him a more management role, which meant he didn't have to start till 8 and was finished at 5, and it was a salary and just, you know, some more security things in hours.
On the Gold Coast, yeah. So he was home every night.
Yeah.
And
so with reluctance, I think he took the role. And then, yeah, it was probably a slow slide into some tough times for him again after that. But
was that evident for you, given that you've got 3 children, your life's so busy and consumed, you kind of...
Yeah, like he started the role not long before Aria was born, and yeah, it had become a bit, I don't know if this was a good idea.
Yeah.
I could just see the pressure mounting on himself. I think he puts the pressure on himself, not...
They had so much expectation on himself.
Yes, yeah, because he just wanted to always do well and please people and, you know, be proud of himself and for everyone else to be proud of him, I think, as well. So, which he did do well, but sometimes to the exhaustion of himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To detrimental to himself.
Yeah. So, yeah, I suppose I just saw a slow decline. Then we had COVID, you know, and then COVID came.
Right, yeah.
So then, you know, that changed.
Was he still working during COVID?
Yeah, because he could work a bit from home.
Right.
And his industry didn't close down.
Did that help him a little bit? Mind you, you've got 3 small children, you're trying to work from home.
Yeah, both of our businesses didn't close down, so we were both able to work still, which was a blessing. But yes, I had Oliver home from school for I think 5 weeks when they closed it down in his first year of prep when I had a small baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's blurry, but it was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think everyone kind of feel like it's almost like it
when
didn't
was that?
happen.
Like, what-
I know.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking, you know, someone brought up about COVID and I was talking about, you know, the kids and how it affected them. And I'm like, I can't actually, I can remember it, but I can't. But for us, we were in and out of hospital with Charlie anyway, where that's probably more evident because no one could come in and see us and things like that. But I don't remember. We obviously all did it. We all did the schooling online and everything, but it's almost like so long ago now, isn't it?
It feels,
But then for you with a newborn as well, like you're already sleep deprived.
Yes.
And then trying to online school a 5-year-old.
A 5-year-old.
I mean, good luck with that.
Yes, exactly.
You know, who just wants to play.
Yeah, we're just outside playing most of the time.
And why not?
Yeah.
Probably got more out of that anyway. And then when you're in that small area and you're still, like for Ben, still trying to do and be proactive with his work and what's expected of him, I would imagine that would kind of put the spotlight on him for himself, inadvertently to himself, of what he's not doing and what he should be doing. And, you know, it's all kind of building up for him. As anyone would talk about it, working from home, they find it really exhausting and hard. Yeah. Unless you had a little outbuilding that you could kind of replace yourself.
Yeah, he tried to make a bit of a space like that for him. I mean, it wasn't hugely successful, but he did it when he needed to. I think he found it really hard to work from home, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So fast forward a little bit to, you know, obviously Ben was doing that job for a while. Then Ben moved. Did he move interstate for work for the same business? Was he doing the same business?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, you know, an opportunity arose, right, for him to go and do work there.
In the December 2020, he again was just really struggling with his own mental health, and I think the work could tell that. I was struggling with him being at home with the 3 kids with his mental health struggles as well, and self-medicating at times, and really just it was a tough time. So I think work had a bit of an opportunity for him in Newcastle, and I thought that was a really good idea
opportunity
for him to just take some space, for me to take some space, and hopefully for him just to take a bit of a breather and collect himself a bit, and hope he could, you know, get back on track. And so in the March of 2021 he went down to Newcastle for some work down there. Yeah.
And for you as well, because I know only from Glenn working away frequently in the mining and Navy, and, you know, it's something that I've always been used to. But I used to call him Disneyland Dad, because he'd come home when he'd come home, and then you'd be so woo, and you'd be so regimented. Well, not like I wasn't like a sergeant major, but you just knew where things went,
routines
what
were.
time, what activity each child had, where you had to be, what time, you know, all of that. And he was brilliant with that. Like he just, you know, if you told him what to, he'd do it, no problems. But I just noticed that the house would just fall apart a little bit.
Yeah.
Because no matter how you tried, and then you'd feel guilty because you think, well, they've worked so hard too. They want to come home and chill out. I don't want to be on their backs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So on top of that, then having, you know, him not being in the best place, and then you trying to take care of everyone and spin those plays, you can see how the wheels can, you know,
get
really wobbly.
Yeah, it was a tough
time.
Yeah.
So when he moved to Newcastle to do the work, did you feel, from a mom's perspective, not a partner, but from a mom's perspective, with the 3 kids, kind of, okay, and breathe, like we can just try and get into some kind of routine? It wasn't unusual for the kids not to have dad at home, and dad was at work.
Yeah, I mean, it had happened many times before. He would be away for nights and different times through the week. So, for him to be away for work wasn't completely unusual. But, yes, our home life stabled a little more with him away for a little bit. Yeah, I felt like I could just focus on my 3 really young children. Yeah. And, just try and get their lives into that routine of school, and, you know, I had a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. Yeah. So,
coming out in welts thinking about it.
Yeah. I'm like, I think still it gets, like, blurry. Like, I think, oh, my God, like, how was I coping with that?
Yeah, but you do, right?
Yeah,
you
just do.
Yeah, because what choice have you got? And hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? So he's gone to Newcastle. When was that? What time was that?
March 2021.
March 21. And then, you know, you're in your groove as best you can be. Obviously, we've got amazing technology, FaceTime and all that, so the kids aren't totally disconnected or anything like that. So you were making it work. Yeah. In that situation, as a lot of working families, when they have to travel interstate or whatever, they just make it work. So let's go to the day. You're at home.
Yeah. You already get the lump comes in my throat already. No. Crazy.
It's crazy, isn't it? Oh, are you okay?
Yeah. Sorry.
Don't be sorry. I mean, I'll cry with you because, like, you know.
Yes, it was. It was the 6th of July. Caleb had only had his birthday 4 days before, and we'd spoken to him for Caleb's birthday, and I'd spoken to Ben the night before. And got the kids off to school, Aria at kindy. It was actually school holiday, so they were vacation care because I had to work. So I got back and I was doing my clients. My phone was ringing. I don't normally answer my phone when I'm at work, except if it's the school or kindy. So it was a private number, so I was just ignoring it. Called again. I thought, that's a bit weird. And then I got a call from Ben's boss, who also happened to be a client, so I knew it was her and that she was calling. And then I just started to be like, so I called her back and she said, have you heard from Ben this morning? And I said, no, I haven't spoke to him yet today. And she was like, oh, okay, one of the vans has been in an accident down in New South Wales, but I don't know if it's Ben's. I don't know if it's, we don't know yet. I was like, and so then my heart starts just thumping. I'm shaking now just because it would have been shaking at the time.
Do you have a sixth sense? Like, are you thinking this is, in
No,
your mind, are you thinking it's him?
Well, I suppose because then I answer a private call who's called again for like the third time, and it's Constable, I'm not sure, from Mudgeeraba Police Department. Just wanting, I've got some detectives or some officers coming around that just need to talk to you. And I said, can it just wait a little while? I'm just at work right now. I just remember thinking I'm not ready to do whatever you think you need to talk to me about yet. And he goes, no, they'll be there shortly. I was like, okay. And I'm still...
You're in the house now.
I'm still in the salon. I've got two clients in the salon. I've just rinsed one of my clients' hair off, and I still see these clients today, these two clients that were in there. And she goes, just go, it's fine. I said, it's okay, I'm just going to comb out your hair for a minute. I just need to just sort of gather myself and think, what the hell is happening? I think I just really thought he was just in trouble. You know, I just didn't put that all together as being... And they get there and I walk into the house. Now I'm inside in the lounge and we sit down.
Are they in a police van?
Yeah, I can't remember. Just a police car. There were two female officers. They had their masks on for COVID, and they asked if it would be okay if we take our masks off. I was like, yeah, of course. And do you know Ben? And yes. And do you know him to be, living, working in New South Wales at the moment? Yes. I'm thinking to myself, what's he done? That's what I'm thinking. What's he done? And they said this morning his vehicle was involved in an accident. And then I click and I just said, has he died? And they said, unfortunately, his injuries were too much for him to survive. Yeah.
And it's like, I know that's really hard to share, so thank you for sharing that. At that time, the kids aren't home. It's just you. And I obviously, because I know you and I know your business partner is your best friend, I know at that point he's raced over.
Yeah,
next door because it's
they heard me
scream.
Yeah, I think I can't remember doing that, but yeah, I fell to the floor. I remember just saying no, and yeah, then Clayton came in. They're first like, who's he? And I'm like, it's okay. He's my best friend. It's okay. And yeah, I just remember saying it to him and thinking, I can't go back in and finish my clients. And they were fine. He sorted that out. He called my mum for me. She came over. And I mean, it's all just so blurry. Yeah. Yeah. I think it was about lunchtime. I think it was around 11ish. So I had a few hours to collect and digest and know that they were going to be able to get to his mum.
Yeah. And that's, are you okay?
Yeah, to let her know. And yeah.
Because they you know, obviously the police stay with you until, you know.
Until my mum had got there,
Yeah.
and I think I tried to give them his sister's address, which I knew was where his mum was at the time. But I don't even think I said the right address. I think I said his ex-wife's old address, actually. But unfortunately, the officers actually knew the family from Ben's dad. They knew
Oh,
his
God.
dad, yeah, and knew that he had passed and how hard this was going to be for his mum to hear. So yeah, it was tough.
Gold Coast is a small place, right?
Yeah, so yeah, I think they stayed until mum got there, and mum came in. I remember them saying something like, we might need you to identify." That was quite overwhelming for me to think about. And in the end, I didn't, thank God. But yeah, I just remember them saying that and thinking, oh my God, it's
And you're
like that
just
bad.
taking
Like,
a breath of like, it's not feeling
it's
real.
not real.
It's not real. It's like
Absolutely.
you're
It's
just in
like
this
words
horrific
of,
nightmare.
like, what?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it can't be. It can't be, right?
Yeah.
Look, I really accept for getting the kids, because I obviously didn't go and get them. Then
Who
it
got
was
them?
just
Who
so
went?
my Oliver was at vacation care, and my next door neighbour, we were really close. The kids
Yeah.
went to school together. The two boys were friends. I always had plays, so we often picked each other's kids up. And so I just asked her if she could grab him for me. And Mum would have went. I'm sure Mum would have went to kindy to pick up Caleb and Aria. And all I could think of then was, how do I tell my babies?
No. Yeah. Oh, James, like you know, I feel your pain probably more than, you know, well, there'll be so many people listening to this and so many people who, you know, unfortunately will be able to relate to your story. I think you not to talk about my story, but obviously for anyone listening, it's fairly evident we went through similar, but my kids were there. And as much as it was horrific. There's nothing, you
Better
know,
or worse
better
way
or worse.
for it to have gone. Yeah.
But I didn't have time to process and then go, what am I going to say?
Yeah.
It just
Happened right there.
the knock
yeah.
at the door and whatever you. So for you, and then like, you know, in baby language almost, like these little humans, to talk to them and what, you know, you go into like survival mode, like mama bear kicks in like it's never kicked in before. And I don't know about, I'm not sure, and I don't want to speak for you, but for me, I remember the pivotal moment, literally the police were still there, but I remember thinking, from here on in, how I handle every single thing moving forward has to be done right for my kids, because this is going to affect them for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to there was a female police officer, and I remember saying to her, you're the same with your babies. I'm such a helicopter mom, like for the right reasons, I think. But I think society now, and I know yours are a lot younger, but social media and people, babies and our little humans having to grow up so quickly, even in the schooling system or whatever. And I'm always mindful of that, to keep them little for as long as we
possible.
can. I don't want them to grow up like, within reason, but from that moment, I knew that my kids were going to grow up, and it was completely out of my control. That's rough.
Yeah.
So here you are with these beautiful little babies, very similar in age, but such a difference. The conversation you can have with the oldest is very different to what you can have with the littlest, right?
Yeah, I mean, Aria wasn't even 2. Like, how you can't have that talk with her. I couldn't say to her, Daddy died. It wasn't. I brought Oliver and Caleb into my room, and even though I knew Caleb was going to be very difficult for him to understand, he was 4. Oliver was 6, and I knew it was going to mean something to him. Like, he was going to understand what I was saying. And he, responded as you would think. Are you saying my dad is dead? And then, I always remember Caleb. Sorry.
Don't be sorry. Don't ever be sorry.
Caleb just saying to me, you shouldn't have said that, because now you've upset Oliver.
Oh.
Yeah.
He's just trying to be protective.
We didn't know what it meant.
No.
Just that now I've
You've
upset
said
Oliver.
something and upset. Oh,
so I shouldn't have said that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
It's just... Yeah. Because, at that age as well, like, I know my kids have spoken about it before we lost Glenn, but you remember, I can remember being at school when I was like 9 or 10, and someone's grandma might have passed, or I'd never witnessed or been part of grief ever. Like, I'd actually got to high school before, and even then there was I was blessed and fortunate not to have. So it's the unknown.
Yeah.
It's the unknown. And then all
Definitely.
of a sudden when it, kids kind of, because my kids, when they were little, when they reached that time, I think Evie kind of went through that. Well, what happens and what...
Where do they go?
Yeah, what it's like, well, that happened to me. Some people are inquisitive like that, and some, they get, if they're that way inclined, a bit of a worrier. So here we are with your little, is that all of a sudden it's forced on them. They've got no choice. They've actually got to
face what death looks like.
What death looks like.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that... with the kids, those few days, you probably wouldn't even remember, really, would you?
Not a lot. I mean, I remember his family coming up and seeing us the next day, and his eldest daughter, pretty sure she came over. Anyway, I remember us all being together, and... yeah, I mean, even by then, kids just don't sit in the same space of grief as adults do. Their little minds just still allow them to play and to, live.
Just so innocent, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's not a bad place to be, is it?
No, I mean, I wanted to just be there with them. Sometimes just not worrying about it. Just it not being the complete focus on your life at the time. So I think, you know, they helped me as much as I helped them get through
For sure.
those really, you know, I snuggled them up in my bed every night because I just didn't think they should be alone and I didn't want to be alone.
Yeah.
And we would just look at photos of him and remember and laugh or cry or whatever. And I didn't know if it was them that, I can't remember now, it was them that wanted to do that or if I thought it would be good for them to do that. I just felt like that's what I needed to do.
Yeah.
And that's what we did.
Yeah.
You know, until I could feel that was, we don't need to do that anymore. And yeah, but that was the first few months for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it kind of just sort of, you know, you and I have spoken about this, like every day looks differently, but it's kind of naturally evolves to where it needs to go at that time. You just
Yeah.
kind of just got to go with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Were you, as far as emotions and things and that, you know, that I just, when you're in survival mode, but it was like, no matter what, we weren't going to bury any emotion, whether it was however that looked, we were going to hit it head on because
Yeah.
I didn't want my kids growing up and carrying this heavy trundle into life with them and not having dealt with it. And
Yeah.
they'll never get over it. It's not something.
No.
And that's, you know, obviously we could make a million podcasts about that, couldn't we? About how it stays with you forever. But I think it's, you know, you actually said to me before we jumped on this episode, but in the past as well, that if it sometimes their emotion, it's not about necessarily, it wouldn't have been about Ben, it could have been about something else. So you can't always assume because
Or
their
relate
little brains.
everything to being about grief. You
Yeah.
know, they still have these lives and where their friend was mean to them or they just didn't like what happened at school that day or
Yeah.
and yeah, you do find yourself, I mean, especially in those first, you know, 2 years, probably more, I'm not sure, but everything was like every reaction from Oliver, as Oliver obviously had bigger feelings around it at his age. Everything was, I was like, is it because of his grief? Is it because of his grief? And you have to start to realise that he's still living a life and things just sometimes are not, it's not a good day or it's, you know, football didn't go well or a friend was mean to him or the video game was, you know,
And it's not
annoying or
necessarily
whatever.
real. He's just tired. It's just exhausted.
Exactly.
Like he's mentally exhausted. He's had a big day at school. He's
Yeah.
just no reason. He's hungry, tired, you know, early night. Like it's kind of, you know, you would go into that. So that week of all that, then family rallied around you, which is amazing. And then all Ben's, like the funeral and everything, they took over and organised that, which was...
They were, really good. We all met at the funeral home together. It took us a little while to get him back up to Queensland, one, because of COVID, and two...
Of course.
Yeah, so...
How long was that?
Nearly 2 weeks.
Right.
Yeah. So, you know, obviously, we all wanted to see him. We didn't know if we were going to be able to. They had said... we all went to the funeral home together to pick the flowers and the casket, and which all just felt so surreal, and stupid. It just felt silly. Just like what? And then I think that they had said that he was going to be fit for viewing, which I was really surprised about, and then had the do I want to see him? And yes, of course I need to see him. Do I ask the kids if they want to see him? Everyone said, definitely not. Definitely, they're too young. You can't, you know. So I went with that, and yeah, I went to see him to say goodbye, and yeah, that was. I mean, you walk into a room and you see this, like, lifeless person that looks just like you remember him.
What's going on in your head then at that point? Just
disbelief. Like, how did we get here?
yeah,
How are we here? I just need to ask him a lot of questions about the kids, and I just I wanted I wanted some sort of guidance from him. I think when spiritual, whatever you want to call it, but yeah, I just always remember wanting to know that I was doing a good job.
yeah, that validation of
Yeah,
because it's so obviously it's so final, but everything's surreal. But I know for me, I was like fully and still am soul searching. Like I'm just like it just doesn't end like that. It just doesn't. There's no
no,
way. I go, okay, you're not here Earthside, but I know you are.
absolutely.
So help me out here.
Yeah,
Like,
give me something. Yeah, I mean, I think for and the kids would say it too, every bird that would come up to the back door, Ben always used to believe that birds were spirits, like it was his dad.
brilliant.
So every
Love
bird that
that.
would come, every butterfly,
Yeah.
everyone was like, it's dad, it's dad.
Yeah.
So we would, have our, hi dad, and magpies would at times walk into the house and then just walk back out again. And they were always around. And yeah, so we were all looking for always signs that he was still with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you still believe that for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
definitely.
such a beautiful,
Yeah.
I think it's we're the same. We openly, you know, always, every bird, every butterfly,
Yeah.
we're just constantly like that. And it is so, it's good for the soul. Like it's such
Yeah.
a great way for the kids to have that outlook.
Yeah.
That it isn't so final, that
Yeah.
he's not here in the physical form, but he's definitely around them,
Yeah.
which is such a beautiful thing. So you have obviously you have the celebration of life, and do then life, obviously the world still goes round.
Yeah.
I've had this conversation with a lot of people in kind of similar situations, but even with with illness themselves or whatever, that it's the after that
After
the
the
phone
busyness.
calls stop,
Yeah.
and
Flowers stop coming.
the flowers stop coming there, which is actually welcomed, because
Yeah,
you're
I'm
just
like, I
over
can't-
it at that
yeah.
stage, aren't you?
Yeah.
And you want some kind of normality.
Yep.
But did you find then that you got caught up with the kids back at school and daycare and all that, and was that just for you, that in particular that first 12 months, 18 months, was that just a blur to you? Like, is it just
Yeah, and I think a lot happened in that 12 months outside of the grief of Ben. Like my sister and his brother both got married in the August after.
that's right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a lot to be at two weddings after losing him. And
Then your finger.
yeah, so at
Which-
one of the weddings I fell over and broke my finger.
Horrific pain though,
which
like you.
was surgically dealt with, and a pin sticking out of it, and screw in it, and bone taken from my wrist to fix the bone in my finger. It was just insane. I'd never broken a thing in my body.
So you did a good job.
I just felt like it was his way of saying, sit down,
Yeah.
stop going to work,
Yeah.
just take a break.
Because you had no choice then. You couldn't-
I didn't stop going to work, and it made more sense for me to show up than to just sit at home on the lounge doing what, thinking about
too much
it.
thinking time.
No.
Yeah.
So I just started to work, and yeah, I think he was like,
Yeah.
So that was in that year, and I don't know. Then I think I had my wisdom teeth removed in that same year that needed to happen. So there was a lot of like all these other things in that first year that I was just like couldn't believe were happening.